By now, it's common knowledge that Rogue One, a Star Wars story, underwent a lot of changes in post-production, with extensive reshoots taking place and loads of scenes glimpsed in early trailers being dropped. While reshoots are hardly anything new for modern blockbusters, the sheer extent of the changes is what's raised a few eyebrows. Fortunately, contrary to the fears often raised by reshoot rumours, the final product worked really well regardless, imho. But that's not to say you're not curious about what could have been, right? I mean, you clicked on this video, didn't you? So, hello, I'm Peter from WhatCulture.com, and I'll be your guide today through 10 ways Rogue One, a Star Wars story was almost totally different. Spoiler alert for Rogue One, obviously. Number 10, Pendra's death on Jedha. Rogue One is easily one of the darkest entries in the Star Wars franchise, featuring heroes that shoot unarmed informants in the back and unprecedented ground-level shots of people dying at the hands of the Death Star. Apparently though, some even darker elements were snipped out in post, including a shot that revealed the ultimate fate of that little girl that Jyn saved during the Jedha street battle. In the novelization, it's revealed that this poor child, named Pendra, was amongst those who perished when the Death Star blasted Jedha off the map. She's with her family when it happens, and her father tries in vain to shield her from the blast when it reaches them. But while the film did feature plenty of hard-hitting shots of the effects of the superweapon, child death was probably a step too far for Disney, and so Pendra's demise was cut and reserved for the book alone. Number 9, the dark backstory for the Death Troopers. While the Death Troopers didn't get a whole lot to do in Rogue One outside of shooting stuff and looking cool, they at least managed to do that really well. But in earlier versions, they were even creepier. The Art of Rogue One book states that director Gareth Edwards based the soldiers on one of Ralph McQuarrie's original Star Wars concept art designs, but also initially wanted them to have much smaller heads to indicate that parts of their brains were missing. Either specially bred that way or perhaps lobotomized after birth, the idea was that this made them the perfect obedient soldiers, devoid of emotions, morals, free thought, and other higher brain function. Ugh. This idea, though, was instead reworked into the decraniated background characters that did make it to the movie, who basically have the top of their heads removed and replaced with computers. Wonderful! Number 8, Saw and Jyn's attitudes. It's been confirmed by producer Kathleen Kennedy that there were bigger plans for Clone Wars character Saw Gerrera at one stage, but for some reason they couldn't be accommodated into the movie, which probably explains the numerous trailer shots of him that were missing from the final version. So looking at this deleted footage, it seems that Saw's initial relationship with Jyn was the opposite of how it's portrayed in the eventual film, where he wants her to get involved and she's the reluctant one. When Disney ultimately settled on the story's direction though, it seems this take on the character apparently didn't fit anymore, so most of Saw's footage was reshot, and lines like, "What will you become?" never made the cut. It's a choice that likely drastically changed the Jedha sequences, and in fact it may have even been related to the fact that Jyn herself seems to have a different attitude in the earlier trailers. In the initial promotional material, she seemed actively anti-Empire and therefore on board with the whole rebellion thing, literally stating during a conversation, "This is a rebellion, isn't it? I rebel." Number 7, Chirrut Imwe wasn't always blind. Despite being one of his defining characteristics, it's surprising to learn that Donnie Yen's character, Chirrut Imwe, wasn't originally blind. This was one of the suggestions that Yen himself made when he accepted the part, and the character was originally supposed to be handy with a blaster instead. It worked out pretty well though. Making Chirrut blind gives the character more of a mystical edge, helps reinforce his literal blind belief in the power of the Force, and also shows what it can do even for a non-Jedi. Best of all though, it gave us the one-liner of the year when one of Saw's goons decided that he needed a hood over his head like all the others, and he simply states, "Are you kidding me? I'm blind." Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Well done. Well done. Number 6, Krennic was originally a double agent. Rogue One didn't quite have that single standout villain that every Star Wars film kind of needs, what with Krennic, Tarkin and Vader all tussling for a piece of that pie, but Ben Mendelsohn helped make old Orson an enjoyably Weasley figure regardless. However, in the original outline, his role was a little bit more complex. It turns out that Krennic was actually part of Jyn's rebel crew, but also a double agent slipping rebel information to the Empire and generally being a nuisance. The character underwent massive changes during rewrites though, and at one point he was also supposed to have a nasty facial scar before this too was dropped. Probably for the best, as it might have been a bit samey for another Star Wars baddie to have a facial scar. Number 5, Vader's Castle. How's it going, MTV? I'm Darth Vader and welcome to my crib. Come on in. We first see Darth Vader in Rogue One when Krennic arrives at his castle on Mustafar, the lava planet where he had his epic showdown with Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. You might think building a home on the planet where, as far as he knows, he killed the love of his life and was also horribly maimed by his old master is a bad idea, but in the original script he even had a window overlooking the spot where Obi-Wan dismembered him, so he can always reflect on the man he used to be. And Lucasfilm concept artist Doug Chiang also revealed that the castle sits atop the foundation of an ancient structure, namely some kind of Sith cave, perfect for angry, hateful meditation, which is apparently magnified by the strange shape of the castle above. Place your bets as to whether Kylo Ren will end up there in episode 8 or 9. Also, speaking of the Sith, number 4, Jyn's mother was a Jedi in hiding. The Art of Rogue One book has been a treasure trove for fans looking for additional Easter eggs, and one of the best is the major revelation that Jyn's mother was originally a Jedi, which might explain why she had a Kyber crystal handy in the prologue segment, I guess. Screenwriter Chris Weitz revealed that Lyra was originally a Jedi in hiding, but this concept was dropped when it was decided the film should be about ordinary people struggling against the Empire. Number 3, the end battle was smaller. It's clear the biggest reshuffle in the film happened with the climax, with the initial trailers showing a completely different chain of events in the final battle. There are numerous shots not found in the actual movie, including Krennic walking across the water while dead stormtroopers float nearby, nice, and the rebels running through a building with the Death Star plans in hand. What? It's hard to know exactly when, where, and why the changes were made because, strangely, in some of these missing shots, Cassian and Jyn are in their rebel garb and not their Imperial disguises. That's odd. Perhaps most interestingly here, though, is the suggestion that instant fan favourite K2SO may have once upon a time been due to survive the gunfight outside the databank room, as he can be seen in this shot alongside the data tape. What the hell? It still hurts. Number 2, the tie atop the tower. One of the most noticeable missing shots of the climax, though, is so conspicuous by its absence that it really deserves its own entry in this list. The goddamn TIE fighter that can be seen hovering right in front of Jyn atop the Scarif comms tower was something that intrigued so many of us when it was first shown in one of the film's earlier trailers, so when it failed to show up in the final cut, it was a little bewildering. We're all fascinated to know the context of this here at What Culture, and with any luck, all will be revealed in the Blu-ray extras or other bonus material. But here's my theory, putting it out there now, the music crescendos, it looks like it's all over for Jyn, she winces as she anticipates her fate, and then the pilot pops the hood and reveals himself to be Cassian or maybe Bodhi, and they've actually turned up just to give Jyn a lift out of there. Sounds crazy? Maybe, but maybe not when you learn that number 1, the heroes survived. Given the nature of the story, fans were prepared for the fact that not everyone was going to come out of Rogue One's story alive, but we turned out to be perhaps all too correct as we watched every single one of the newbies get killed off before the final credits rolled. It was a ballsy move for Disney, even if it makes sense story-wise. After all, none of these characters appear in the original trilogy, and so there had to be a reason for that. But for House of Mouse to go the whole hog was as unexpected as it was commendable. Director Gareth Edwards also assumed he'd have to soften the edges of the story. In a tweet posted just after the film's release, Gary Whitta stated, "In very early versions of the story, Jyn survived because Gareth and I never thought they'd let us get away with the alternative." But it turns out Disney were on board with the darkness of the story and ended up giving him the go-ahead to stick with the climax we were given in the final cut. And just as well, I reckon, this makes for a poignant ending that roused genuine emotion in the fans and wonderfully expanded upon the humanity behind what was once just a paragraph of yellow text. But perhaps best of all, the scale of collateral here dramatically raised the stakes, not only in those grippingly tense last 5 minutes with Vader, but also in A New Hope itself. Well done, Gareth Edwards. So there we go, that's what we know about how Rogue One could have turned out very different, but let us know in the comments if you've heard anything else. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and you can follow me on Twitter here. Let's all talk about Star Wars together, yay! I'm Peter from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.